Oh, the divine responsibility of parenthood. The divine responsibility of parenthood. A very, very important subject. I'm sure you all will agree. As we look about us, especially we have to read the newspapers once in a while, what's going on. And every one of those children of God had parents. And so there must be something wrong. There is something wrong. And that is that the parents do not all realize their divine responsibility. And so it is a very important subject, but it is a subject which has a simple answer. As most all things in life have a simple answer, but we fail to grasp the simplicity of that answer. We can readily see that if each of the parents of children realized God in any of his aspects, that the bringing up of children would resolve into a different matter than it does under the present conditions. The trouble with the children is that the parents do not perceive the presence of God in themselves and in one another. And then there are other parts of the question which I will come to later. But the main thing is, as it says, the divine responsibility means that every parent should realize the presence of God in some of his many forms. And by so doing just that one simple thing, much of the ills would be corrected in bringing up the children. Now, God being the cause and end of all things has many, many, many aspects. And so when we worship him, as we should worship him, he has any aspect that you want to suit your devotions. That's why in our prayer we say, Heavenly Father, Mother, Friend, Beloved. All aspects are there in God. One may feel the mother aspect more than the father aspect, and vice versa. One may feel the great relationship with God as friend. It's a friend. And of course, then there is that relationship of the great cosmic romance of the beloved father or mother, friend. They are all there in the presence of God. So there is no excuse for any one of us saying we cannot feel God as any of these aspects. We can, because God is in us and we are a part of him, and that aspect is there waiting for us. So there you have your choice. Any aspect that appeals to you is all right. If you have a real friend, for instance, or a relative who feels the love of you of a divine mother, that's just the same as the one who feels you as a father, isn't it? God cannot be relegated to this narrow conception of only one thing as Father. He is omnipresent, all-pervading, all-inclusive. All aspects of worship are in him. Now the parents must take some form and worship that form, whatever suits them, and then carry on from there. And these aspects of God can be applied to everyone, irrespective of race or creed. And so God isn't just for the Baptists or the Methodists or the Catholics or the Protestants or the Jews. He is universal. And when you rise above these outward dogmas, there you find him in any aspect you want. But you have to get there. You have to get into his presence. Then you can take whatever aspect you like of him, until finally, even Ramakrishna, who worshipped the divine aspect, divine mother aspect of God, he finally said, I had to destroy the image of divine mother to realize the infinite. So all things, even spiritual forms, melt into that great one eternal Father, the ever-conscious, blissful, eternal existence. And in that, instead of losing you gain all things, for God is all. Let us realize this one important point. Now, God is the Father. Jesus always said, I and my Father are one. He took the Father aspect. And yet, what compassion Jesus had. Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. So do not think just because Jesus took the Father aspect, that the compassion of the mother was in him, or the love was not in him. It was in him and is in him as a channel of God. Now, some saints take the aspect of Divine Mother, because as the mother principle in us usually gives us what we want, especially if we cry hard enough and long enough, so it applies to religion. The Divine Mother aspect seems to be a little more human, but when we come right down to it, it is not. God the Father is all right. He suits me. That happens to be what I feel. And I know some of you feel that too. If you like the Divine Mother aspect of God, that's wonderful. But we can never forget that He is all. All of these characteristics and aspects put together in one great eternal, infinite being, supreme above all things. That's the greatest conception, that is, that appeals particularly to me. But that does not mean that I am right in that thing. The other aspects may appeal to you. If they do, use them. But the thing is, let us use these things. Let us apply the aspects of God and thereby change our lives, that we become better parents, those of us who are parents. And so, men are moved more by reason. And they say wisdom. Sometimes I don't know, but let's say reason. While the ladies, the women, are moved more by feeling. And so men perhaps have a little more of the Father aspect of God, and women have perhaps a little more of the Divine Mother aspect within them. But I believe, and I know many of you do here, that a combination of the two makes a pretty good combination if the bond is there. If the indissoluble bond between the Father and the Mother is there, then the combination is the highest. Now, I have a reference which our Master gives to substantiate what I have said, to back me up, so to speak. In the autobiography we read, devotees of all ages, approaching the Mother in a childlike spirit, testify that they find her ever at play with them. Then in another place, in man, reason predominates. In women, feeling was ascendant. Thus was expressed the duality or polarity that underlies the phenomenal worlds. Every one of us as a parent is subject to this phenomenal world. The positive and negative aspects are there. And by the union of those two aspects, the world goes on, and this population goes on with it. So let us see God in a universal aspect, and then we will be rid of much of our trouble as we try to fathom these conditions and problems of parenthood. But I have not come as yet to the main problem, which is as follows. Now, we have also two other aspects of God, spirit and nature. Spirit and nature. The Father and the Mother aspect, that's all. In spirit, as we think of space, it seems so broad, so extensive. It seems that we cannot fathom its boundlessness and its vastness. That's the Father aspect. While nature, when we consider nature as beauties, as creative beauties, as those flowers, and as each one of us, the body of each one of us, that's the nature aspect, and that's the Divine Mother aspect too. The time and space element of this creation is the Divine Mother aspect. Because all things have come from her, have they not? In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And from that holy vibration, its light aspect, all things have come. You and me, and all things have come from that time and space element of the Word. Therefore, that's truly the Divine Mother, is the time and space aspect of creation. While the wisdom, also in the Word, not only is the creative aspect of Divine Mother in the Word, but the wisdom is there, the vastness, the wisdom of God. And the combination of these two have produced all things. So there you have a little metaphysical view of the father and mother aspect of creation. The vastness of creation is the father aspect. Because when you expand your consciousness to the boundlessness of space, you feel great wisdom. But when you think of the flowers and the beauty of creation, then you think of the Divine Mother aspect. So these both things are necessary, and let us realize that all things truly come from time and space element of Divine Mother. Divine Mother is the light even which you see, because from that light all things come. Divine Mother is the womb of creation, because everything comes from that. All things are created from that. Now we also have other relations which we can worship. First we have the friend, father, mother, friend. The friend relationship with God is most wonderful, because sometimes in the relationship of relatives, so to speak, of parents, there is a closeness there. But in the friendship relation with God, there's a dignity of a little reserve, a little separation. And so the friendship relationship with God is most wonderful. I think that was the relationship I had with the Master, was like friend and friend, although he was father and everything. I remember one night I was indisposed at Mount Washington. We had a big celebration coming the next day. I was hoping I could get out of it, but my mother wasn't hoping the same way. And so all night the Master came down the hall ministering to me, hot pads and all sorts of things, just like a mother. And then in the morning, when I couldn't stand up hardly and I get my clothes on without assistance, he came in and he says, "Come on." I said, "I can't go down, sir." He says, "Come on, come on, come on." Like the father, and down I went. And I had the most wonderful meditation because I made the effort. And so that relation of friend with God is most wonderful. The Master used to point out the different brothers, for instance, that existed in our time, like the Dodge brothers and the Smith brothers who used to be talking. They were like one. And so that's a wonderful relationship with God if you can feel that with him. Just like one with him is your best friend. Sometimes a little distance, you can't get quite close to him, but he never forsakes you. A true friend will never let you down. So God is the true friend. He'll never let us down. And then the last is, of course, the relationship of beloved to beloved. And that, of course, is called the cosmic romance, and that has its characteristics, which I'm sure those who are really mated and feel the underlying unity of God's presence understand that relationship with one another. And so God is behind all of these things. And whatever suits you, whatever appeals to you, whatever touches the strings of your heart, do it. But the main thing is to do it. Carry out your religion and devotions. Now that relationship of beloved, a point I had written down, is that of Mary. You remember Mary in the Bible? I think it was Martha, who was busily active doing things for Jesus which was necessary. But where was Martha? Right at his feet. Beloved. Both are necessary. Both are all right. Whatever appeals to you, whatever you feel in your heart, do it. But the main thing is get God somehow. Get him. And then you'll be a true parent. Now, The divine responsibility of parents is that each one should take whatever aspect of God that appeals to them and apply it to their lives and feel God as such. Then the second step is that they should feel God in the mate, in the other parent. They should feel the underlying indissoluble bond in the other parent. And what is that bond? That's God's love. Now you can see that if that is felt in parents, that all problems will be resolved, and one of the worst problems is the problem of children. But if the parents feel God in one another, what happens? Both parents go to God. And then if that love which they feel for one another is felt throughout the household and in the children, then what happens? Then the children come out all right. But you will say there are some who don't. Yes, I know there are some who do not. But usually, if that indissoluble bond is between parents, the bringing up of children will take care of itself. Because when one parent sees God in the other parent, and they both see God in each other, and they both are going toward God, harmony must reign. And it will reign in bringing up children. I remember I asked Master one time, I said, what am I going to do with these critters? My own children. They were giving us a good time. You know how children are, just a certain age. We didn't amount to anything. We knew nothing. And I won't use some of the words that were used. The young people know the words. I said, what am I going to do, sir, with this bunch? He says, listen. This is not self-praise because I've gotten over that. But he says, listen. With such parents as they have, they'll be all right. So I felt good, and I said, all right, the children are going to be all right, here goes. And they came out pretty well, I think. So let us as parents realize that if we can feel God in one another, and that indissoluble bond is there, then things must come out right. Of course, there'll be ups and downs. Perhaps some of the children will wander, but in the end, I'll wager that they will remember those things and those characteristics of their parents, and they will be better for those characteristics. As Gandhi said about his wife, his mate, he said, no doubt she has faults, more than I see. I wouldn't dare to say that, but Gandhi said it. He said, no doubt she has faults more than I'm aware of. But he says, she affects me more than any other woman I've known. And he says, there's an indissoluble bond between us. Now that's the spirit which should be between parents. And if that spirit is there, things must come out right with the children. They will be brought up as they should be brought up. Now each mother should realize this one thing, that she is or has the aspect of Divine Mother in her. Without question of a doubt. Every one of the parents, the mothers, should realize that Divine Mother is in her. And she should try to emulate that and make herself a fit example of the one eternal Mother, Divine Mother. And likewise, she should not only love her own children, this is the difficult thing, but she should see the Divine Mother in all children. And gradually, as she realizes her oneness with Divine Mother, that characteristic will spread through her being, and she will feel just the same for all children as she does her own. That's the highest form of motherhood. And by so doing, her own child will be better. And she will appreciate her own child more, and she will be carrying out her mission in life as the great example of the one eternal Mother, the mother parent. And so with fathers, the same thing. The father who protects the home and ministers unto his family, and who is the epitome of wisdom, who is a right father, he should also realize that he too is an example, or can be an example, because God is in him as the father of the father parenthood in this worldly existence. And so he should extend his ministrations not only to his own, but to all of God's children. One of the greatest examples was Larry Masha, which we will come to in a minute. And nothing is lost. Your own children will be better if you do that. And you'll be closer to your own children. Because God is in your child just as well as in the next neighbor's child. God alone is. These are wonderful truths which we can apply to our lives, and the wonderful part is nothing is lost. Everything is gained by feeling God in all.